My name is Fred Johnson. I'm from Virgin, Utah. I'm a geologist working in the industrial minerals industry. Worked in it for about almost 40 years now. And in minerals, energy, the things that we've been talking about energy-wise, I totally understand what you're talking about. We need to become energy independent. I think in the last debate, Mr. Herman Cain made a comment that kind of went over people's head when they asked him what he'd do about Afghanistan. And he said, I'd become energy independent. If we were energy independent on 9/11, all we had to do was shut off the money and Osama bin Laden would have been killed. That's not my question. My question is, with all the debate and everything, all I hear coming out of Washington is cuts on Medicare, cuts on Social Security, cuts on those things. Why don't we hear cuts on a overbloated bureaucracy that is essentially tying up everything with red tape? This is a bureaucracy that just doesn't work anymore. It's motivated by failure. People in real businesses are motivated by success. And what we need to do is change that. We need to flip that around. Because even if you got and you started going for your drilling and your independence, that bureaucracy is constantly going to be working their jobs to slow you down and just take it apart. We have all the laws, they're in place. What we need to do is, it's a compliance issue now. It's not give your plan to 30 bureaucrats and let them sit there and mess with it for 5 years. Let's get the job done.
For the last several hundred years, Western civilization has been moving gradually in the direction of having laws passed by elected representatives. We had a form of that in England, where we had Parliament. We still were subject to a sovereign king. We grew tired of that. We grew tired of being taxed without representation in Parliament, so we formed our own government. We put in place in the U.S. Constitution, in Article 1, Section 1, Clause 1, a restriction that says that the power to legislate, meaning the power to make rules carrying generally applicable force of law, shall be vested in Congress. Article 1 then goes on to explain that Congress shall consist of a Senate and of a House of Representatives. The way the Constitution is written today, those who occupy the seats in the Senate and in the House of Representatives are to be elected by the people. In the case of the Senate, every 6 years. In the case of the House of Representatives, every 2 years. Why is that important? What does that have to do with your question? Well, it has to do with the fact that there's good reason why people who make the laws need to be elected. When we make bad laws, we can be held accountable for them. If I make a law that you don't like, you're going to come and talk to me about it. You'll send me angry letters about it. And when it comes time for me to stand for election once again, if enough of you agree, you'll vote me out of office, you'll elect someone else. But when we outsource the lawmaking power to unelected bureaucrats, nameless, faceless bureaus, who are not chosen by the people, not elected by the people, not accountable to anyone who is himself or herself elected by the people, we give power to these bureaus that historically was reserved for kings and despots and tyrants. We chose liberty over tyranny in this country. That's why the laws need to be made by Congress, not by the bureaus. Let me explain how we get out of that mess. We get out of it through something called the REINS Act, which I'm proud to co-sponsor in the United States Senate, along with my friend and ally, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky. The REINS Act says that when we have regulations that carry the force of generally applicable law that are costing hundreds of millions of dollars in compliance costs, those regulations will sunset. They will evaporate, basically, after a set number of months, unless or until Congress affirmatively adopts them into law, passes them as a freestanding piece of legislation. They're submitted to the President and signed into law. Without that action, they are not law, and they may not operate as such. The REINS Act would restore liberty in America. They would restore accountability to the U.S. government. We have to get it passed. So contact your members of Congress and help me get this done. We'll restore liberties.